Let's welcome in the listeners for Koi Talk Podcast Episode 9. On today's show, we've got Ben Ashe, CEO of MDM, manufacturer of sequence pumps, and we've got Darren Gray from Absolute Koi in the UK. So it's great to have these two guys on the show. Before we start, I'll just introduce myself for viewers that may not have seen me before. I'm Steve, I'm part of the Koi Talk team, and you'll have seen me in some of the magazines that we publish. So if you've not seen Koi Talk magazine, check it out. It's $3.95 a month subscription, and that includes delivery direct to your door. So let's make a start with episode 9 and pass over to Ben and Darren. So
Awesome.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to have you in the studio here. So you've made a quick trip across to the UK, I see.
Indeed. Yeah, still getting through some jet lag, but we're good.
Yeah, so how long have you been across?
When did I get here? Roughly early yesterday morning, and yeah, I was fighting no sleep on the airplane and fighting to stay awake at dinner last night, so I got some good sleep and now off to the races today.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hopefully you won't doze off in the studio here. We'll give you a nudge if you do.
All right, yeah, good.
So in terms of starting off then, let's take a look at the history of sequence pumps.
Yeah.
If you want to sort of tell us the background to sequence. So I know they've been historically known in the UK. There's been a short period and now you're back again.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us more about that?
Indeed. So I guess the place to start is how we even got into being a supplier of pumps to the koi carp hobby. And that goes all the way back to the early 80s. I want to say 1985 in Southern California when we were manufacturing our pumps, and specifically for industry. I think the biggest market at the time was anodizing and metal finishing, so pumping chemicals actually. And we had a gentleman named Frank Caswell who was a Japanese koi enthusiast. He was importing koi into the Los Angeles area and breeding them there. The name of that company was called Koi Co-op. And they were really tired of the submersible pumps that they were using at the time failing. Yeah, when they would fail, they were oil-filled bearings, so they would put oil into the pond and it would like kill the koi. Yeah, they're really expensive prize Japanese koi. And then also, back then they weren't like a really specialized submersible pump at the time, where it was built for continuous duty. They were using big pumps that were sump pumps. When a basement would flood, you would put the pump into the basement and pump it out, and it was like an intermittent duty type of deal.
Right, so that's where it all began for you then.
That's where it started.
Wow.
And so, they were tired of using those pumps, not really specialized for kois or koi ponds. And they said, hey, get us a pump that we can use outside of the pond and that is not noisy and it's quiet and it doesn't take a whole lot of electricity, right? And I think at that time, my father was running the business and he told the guy to get lost. He told Frank to get lost a couple of times, but he was very persistent, and thankfully he was. Because then finally, once we crafted a pump for the application, low head pressure, right, high flow, it was a really easy transition from the current configurations of pumps we were making to cater to this application where we I guess the biggest thing would be low RPMs. We applied a low RPM motor to the pump. It did a ton of flow. Low electricity, and all of a sudden the koi keeping community in Southern California just latched onto the name, and that's where sequence really got its legs.
Right, I'm with you.
So, pardon me. And so from that point on, like it went out from Southern California and all up the West Coast across the US. And shortly, I would say into the 90s is when we had some relationships form with some of our partners over here in the UK. Company called Furs out of Nottingham. They did, is of all things, lightning protection, but they had a little garden and pond type of application, and that company was bought and sold and evolved into more pump processing, and it changed hands a number of times. But through that development, the same type of application of the sequence product was done over here, and I think we developed a pretty good following, and it came from just applying a product that would hold up into the field and last a long time.
Fantastic. So that's where the history of the business is, around products that have been reliable and efficient at the same time, I suppose.
Yeah.
So where does that bring you to in the current UK market? How do you see the market now?
Yeah, well, I mean, we are going to rely heavily on Darren to guide us on where it's at. Obviously, things have changed quite a bit. The standard sequence line is, tried and true. We still have the same type of product we did back in the 90s when we entered the market, with a few tweaks. We've developed some new impeller technology where we have the same pump bodies, right? We have a sequence 4000, 1000, 750 series, but applied different technology to impellers, which we applied a thing called a French curve to some of our impeller vanes, which we could increase flow by 20% and not changing anything else, horsepower, speed, any of that. So that's a pretty big boost in performance when you can still keep it to the legacy product. So that's new, and I think that's helpful. But since then, a lot of new products have hit the market, right? And they're coming out of everywhere. So it's a different competitive landscape today.
And in terms of your situation in the UK now, what's your setup? How do you work?
So it's exclusively through Absolute Koi, and through a two-step distribution model.
Right. Okay. I suppose that's where we bring you onto the scene, Darren.
Yeah. I mean, we're delighted to be involved with such a strong brand that's, even today got a reputation for being very extremely reliable. We've got customers, calling, going back 15 years, that sequencers, getting a little bit tired and they want to swap it out for a new one to stop them changing pipe work, and they're so pleased with the longevity of the pump, they want to just replace it like for like. We're going to be reaching out to a selected few in the UK over the next weeks, and trying to get behind some strong dealers geographically throughout the UK that can distribute these pumps in the future.
Right. Okay.
So
we'll look forward to hearing more about that as it happens, as it progresses. I suppose one of the things that hobbyists in the UK are currently really aware of are the rising energy prices that we've got at the moment across the UK. All across the board, the prices have jumped up for customers with electric, and there's obviously lots of other ways of heating a pond and looking at filters and pumps and so on, that is coming into consideration. What do you think to the current situation with the market? Do you think people that are running pumps with multiple systems are looking at it in the right way? Do you think there's more economical ways they could be filtering or pumping their pond?
Certainly. I think there's always room for improvement, and that doesn't just apply to koi keepers. That's an industrial process. I mean, as we were talking before, we have a lot of other markets we serve. Aquaculture is one of them, where they're very sensitive to operational cost, industrial costs. It's across the board. Energy prices are rising everywhere.
That's it.
And it's a key thing to pay attention to, right? Just as a reference in aquaculture, right? It's everything about producing fish and the amount of fish you produce for food. And the number one cost is food to feed them. The second cost is energy to operate your pumps. So land-based aquaculture is highly dependent on that, right? So you better believe people are paying attention to that. And the biggest thing that they can do is optimize their system hydraulics. And if you can optimize your hydraulics, you can lower power consumption. And so, getting that message across, though, is sometimes tough because there's a lot of engineering involved, and you have to invest some time and knowledge into trying to figure that out. So we're still trying to figure out, how do we best educate, on how to optimize just sequence pumps, not all of them, right?
Of course,
but there's, and I think in general, the koi hobby really, they understand that, right? Like, just look at oversizing pipes so you reduce friction. in a system. When you reduce friction in a system, you lower pressure. Pressure is costs money because it's energy, right? So you get rid of the pressure component, you get rid of some of the energy. However, you could get rid of too much pressure, and getting rid of too much pressure in a pump system can take you away from an optimal operating point. And when you do that, you can actually increase the kilowatts you consume in a pump, which is kind of crazy to think, but it's like you have to really dig into rotodynamic devices and know hydraulics to figure that out. So like I said, we're still trying to figure out how to communicate that message of how to optimize an operating point on a pump.
Yeah, it's certainly one that I think a lot of hobbyists have got at the top of their mind as well, as you say, for their own pond. In terms of looking at Sequence and the products that you have, the range, the range is known for its quality, economy, and build quality.
Sure.
Is that something that you think you've built on over time, or how has that progressed?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, quality's always been one of our key selling features, right? We don't offshore any of our production of our motors, which, I mean, that just speaks to buying a quality product, right? You got to sacrifice something if you're going to lower cost in some ways. But also building in, things like low RPM motors. Quality bearings in a motor. Having a good QC process just in your production. Enclosed impellers. These are all things that build into the quality, to the efficiency, and to the longevity of a pump.
Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed.
So in terms of the market now that you've got in the UK, you've mentioned that you're looking at distribution. What sort of timescales are you looking at for that?
Well, we've got stock of the pumps now. We've taken the first delivery. We've got some marketing to do through social media, but it's also about picking the right distribution channels as well. We don't want to offer it out to every koi dealer throughout the UK. We all know it's very fragmented, so we're looking for partners that are prepared to have some stock and really get behind the product. And that's going to take a little bit of time. But geographically, we'd be kind of looking for dealers in the south, as well as the north, and kind of 5 or 6 really strong, reputable dealers that can get behind the product. So we're ready to go.
Yeah. So have you got dealers lined up for that, or
we've reached out to a few dealers that have shown a lot of interest. We've had snow the last few days, so the season's about to start, and everybody's positioning themselves into a busy 2022. We'll be looking to quantify those dealers in the next few weeks and really get some firm arrangements set out in the near future.
Great. In terms of looking at the range of products, what kind of product scale have you got? What size is the range for hobbyists? Is there a good choice?
Right now, gosh, Darren, you're going to have to jump in and help me here, but I think we get up to 12,000 liters.
Well, we've actually got
18,000?
we've got the 8,000 Sequence 8,000 all the way up now to the Sequence 25,000.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've introduced a couple of new series where they're 2-inch inlet and outlet as well, where they come with the couplings as well, super low wattage, and also there's a variable speed Sequence pump that's in the pipeline that's going to be available certainly in the next few weeks. We'll be beta testing. That's already gone out to 20 beta testers. Absolute Koi are one of them, and we'd like to have that pump on show at some of the shows that's coming up in the UK. In the near future, we'll have wet demos there, and Ben's going to join us at the show as well, where we can answer any questions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of emphasis on price of pumps. So like Ben says, it's about educating koi keepers not only to how much these pumps cost at the point of sale, but their running costs, the cost of purchase, the true cost of purchase. How long is it going to last? It's no good it being cheap to buy, and it's going to let go.
That's it. You don't want to Yeah, you don't want to pay cheap, pay twice, do you necessarily? You want to get quality for the price that you're paying.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to communicate. People, having challenges with, lots of different hobbies they've got. So you've got to try and build that in and try and explain that, there's a 3-year warranty out on the pump as well, which is more than most pumps. Well, like I say, we've got customers that have gone past 10 years with Sequence that are still enjoying Sequence pumps, and to the fact that they get really annoyed if they can't have another one like for like, so it's a real strong brand name. And that's very rare. Sometimes you see a lot of products and brands come into the marketplace and they kind of like flash in the pan and then they're gone, whereas Sequence is just been around. It's almost like a household name, so particularly in the koi world and the aquaculture world, or fish keeping in general, they've enjoyed that brand, and yeah, it's back.
Yeah, that's it. It's good to see you back in the UK.
Yeah, we're happy to be back. Happy to be here. It's awesome. I wanted to just bolt on to what Darren was talking about from a performance standpoint, and I think your question related, like, where's the range at now? If there's more, and part of my recall on knowing the exact performance ranges, because I have to convert the imperial gallons to liters, which you guys use gallons and miles here too, so there's all those similarities. But when you start talking about going metric and all that stuff, my brain fries. But right now it's 25,000. That's the 4,000 series with the number 8 impeller, I believe. We have, within the past 10 years, we released a new pump that we call our Sequence Titan, which is a very interesting pump. It's not like threaded ports. We actually have flanged, ANSI flanges on this pump. 3-inch in, 2-inch out, big, almost a 7-inch impeller. And I'm going to just take a stab at converting gallons to liters here, but I would say it probably maxes out about 60,000 liters a minute. It's a pretty big pump, and we do that at low RPMs. That has been adopted by the koi keeping market in the US pretty well. In addition to that, a big trend happening over in the States is these natural swim ponds, where they like the fish element and the water feature element, but they want to make them swimmable. And traditionally those folks that are building those systems over there, they like to use submersible pumps for that. But there's that risk of electric shock of having the pump inside the pond, so they have to use the pumps out of the pond, and that's what's given that Titan series a good name over there. But I believe it has applications over here. It'd be interesting to see how it could be applied. And perhaps we have more work to do on how we're going to apply new motor technology. But like Darren said, we have a variable speed unit in our smallest pump called the Sequence 750, where we've applied that new impeller technology. We call it the Colossus impeller technology, but it's where we applied that French curve to those impeller vanes and got 20% more flow. That, with a DC motor, has enabled us to kind of deploy a product for, I call it single phase applications, but residential power, where you can apply this variable frequency technology. That in itself enables a user to efficiently utilize higher performance for lower energy, right? Bringing it back to energy costs.
That's it. I think at the end of the day, that's what we want, isn't it? You want the reliability. Along with that lower cost. That's key to hobbyists. That's at the top of the list at the moment.
It is, yeah. And Europe in general has been really good about utilizing that technology. That's been here for a while. It's been in the UK for a while. There's a number of different pump manufacturers who are putting, they're bolting on a drive, so to speak, or a gas pedal, so to speak, on the motor. And what's unique about that is the UK, Europe in general, the residential power is high voltage for us. Like in 60 hertz US markets, we call that high voltage, 240 volt. Right, we use 110 volts at 60 hertz. Your residential voltage is 240 single phase, and what happens is you have two hot legs coming in at that voltage, which enables you to utilize what we call variable frequency technology, which is traditionally an industrial type of technology. You're applying, you're taking a sine wave of electricity coming in, and you have a little encoder that digitizes it and tricks the motor into responding to the voltage frequency it sees, right? So if you have 30 hertz of electricity coming into the motor, it's going to synchronize to that and lower the speed. But you can also ramp it up and give it 50, 60 hertz and have a respective increase in RPMs. The UK and Europe have been able to deploy that because you guys already have that high voltage in residential applications. Where we're at in 60 hertz, 110 is our most common power in there, and you only have one hot leg. You cannot utilize that VFD technology over there, so it's been slower to be adopted. It makes us wish we're all Europeans and in the UK, right?
If you could move the business across.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we've, in one sense, it's being that we didn't deploy a technology like that, maybe we kind of fell behind a little bit. But also, we're not just going to jump on the bandwagon because, okay, that's a great trend and it's a great feature, but we want to deploy something that's going to still carry the same features of our values, right? Which is something that's going to be have good longevity, efficiency, performance, all that kind of stuff. So we've taken a long time at just researching where to go with that. So instead of utilizing the variable frequency drive, or VSD is also what they reference over here, variable speed drive. We've taken the approach of using DC motors instead of AC motors, okay? So using a direct current type of motor, you can get the same result of an RPM increase or decrease, variable speed, by just changing voltage, right? DC motors respond to a voltage change without having that little encoder or needing two hot legs coming in, the same that it would be with an AC motor and VFD technology, right? And it's less expensive in some cases. So we've researched that and tried to find partners with that, and then the newest thing is making your products IoT capable, right? Making it integrate to the Internet of Things.
Oh, of course, IoT, yes.
Yeah,
I was about to ask what the IoT was.
Yeah, sure.
You beat me to it.
Sorry. Just cut me off if I keep getting long-winded. But that's taken a while to develop and make sure it's good. And when DC motors tend to operate a lot hotter, they carry more heat. And in some of our testing and destruction testing, we saw that and we said, okay, we got to change our winding array. We got to put more heat sinks onto the motor shell, and all these iterations that just take time, right?
Yeah,
and meanwhile, I'm hammering on engineering, get this finished. We got to deploy a product in due time, right? It's those are things that slow it down. But we have this new product out with the DC motor that we believe has plenty of legs that will scale up, from our 750 series to the 1000, 4000 series, higher flow rates, and possibly even into this Titan line. And with that, I think that could be a pretty significant thing because we can achieve high flow rates, high turnovers at very, very low RPMs, which low RPMs equate to low energy, low kilowatts. And that's where we plan to address the market with all of this.
That's it. So looking to the future, sort of the next 10 years and beyond, is looking at reducing the energy use.
That's right, and increasing performance too.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So do you think the Internet of Things is going to impact on that performance side of things? How's that going to work?
I hope so, because there's so much we can do. I talked about, and it might have been a bit of a diverge to say, educating users on hydraulics. Yeah, because knowing where a pump operates on a performance curve really dictates the longevity and the efficiency and how well you're transferring energy, mechanical energy to hydraulic energy. Yeah, the measure of efficiency is what you put in and what you get out. Yeah, but for instance, a pump curve is a 2-axis grid if we're looking at it in most cases. Your vertical axis is pressure, the horizontal axis is flow. Yeah, and you have a descending curve coming down. Yeah, and so the far right-hand side of that curve would be the most flow you can get at the lowest amount of pressure.
Yes.
And the left-hand side of that curve would be the least amount of flow at the highest pressure, right? But if you were to operate on the far right-hand side, you would consume the most power that the motor has to give. And you'd also be away from the best efficiency point. Again, efficiency, the measure of what you put in and what you get out. So in general, horizontal centrifugal and suction centrifugal pumps, they operate in their best efficiency point right in the middle of the curve. The reason why is you're not concentrating the pressure within the casing one side of the pump or the other, which would depress the impeller, which would deflect the shaft, which puts pressure on a mechanical seal, which puts pressure on bearings, and all these things create heat and vibration and take away from the efficiency, right? So like operating at that optimum point, the Internet of Things component allows us to key into that. Okay, you can put all kinds of different sensors and alarms on a system that says, hey user, you're operating really far out of your BEP, your best efficiency point. Can you increase speed and change the pressure so you're at the best point, or decrease speed and get to there? That is an awesome feature we could probably and will deploy within the next 24 months to just alarm users to know you're operating outside of a key point, you're wasting energy, get it back into a good point. So.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting development.
Yeah.
So in terms of the pumps that you've got for koi ponds, I know you develop a number of other points for jacuzzis, etc., and then for industrial use as well.
Yeah.
Which is sort of leading the way for you? Or are they all working and developing at the same time?
Yeah, all markets right now are just really doing well for us, and we're all looking, scratching our heads, saying, when's the bubble gonna pop? It's like we don't know where it's all come from. We entered into 3 years of a pandemic and sales are off the charts, right? Like, why is that? And there's certain things that dictate that. But I would just say the products are standing up and doing really well from industrial markets. We operate in food and beverage. Aquaculture is another big one. The residential markets, even getting outside of koi fanciers, just the swim ponds, as I mentioned, the water features, all that is doing well. I would just say our roots are in koi, and so we're pretty enthusiastic to develop some innovations in that.
Oh, so, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing the products as they come to the UK, come to the shows this year, as you say, and then
Indeed.
Looking to the next 24 months with the development of future technologies.
Yeah, awesome.
Looking further to the future, is there anything else that you think may be coming or that you predict is going to follow on from that?
Yes, sure. If you go to the MDM website, you can see we have a prototype listed on one of our pumps called the QSIS, and it's really just a development in a new pump. I've seen these types of pumps now being utilized in koi ponds, which is axial flow. Axial flow pumps they're still a kinetic device, a centrifugal pump, but what they don't have is what's called a cutwater in them, where like our pumps right now, horizontal centrifugals, will convert velocity to pressure. Axial flow pumps don't have that cutwater where you're converting that velocity to pressure. It's just all flow. Very interesting looking curve. And so it's lots of flow at low head. For instance, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use some imperial units here. This prototype we developed will turn over 500 gallons a minute, US gallons a minute, for about at 5 feet of head. And it does it for less than 1.5 horsepower. It's a whole lot of flow.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah. And you have something to chime in on that? No. Okay. So it's just, I see these being, airlift systems are somewhat used in koi. They're definitely used in aquaculture, but this was our attempt to come up with a solution to compete with like airlift systems. And it was designed to be used on the effluent of a drum filter and just move heaps of water for low energy. And if we can get beyond some of our motor challenges, it's really hard to do a clean sheet design on a motor design. if you're not a motor manufacturer. And it's hard to get motor manufacturers to do a clean sheet design without millions of dollars, But the unique thing is it's totally different. There's no rotating shaft. It's a wet rotor design. It's integrating into a pipe system. There's virtually no footprint to it, and we could see that really revolutionizing things.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to seeing more about that as well.
Yeah, we'll be chatting more about it, and hopefully taking some ads out with you guys when we're talking about it. Yeah,
I know you've got the advert in Koi Talk magazine, so
Indeed.
As the products develop, we'll look forward to the adverts featuring those as well.
Absolutely.
So I think that sort of brings us to the end of the podcast, really. So I'd like to say thank you for coming in to see us, especially on your short trip across here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to get and talk with you folks, and we hope to do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look forward to getting you back on, whether it's by video call or back in the studio when next time you're here.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something that we can set up.
Let's make it happen.
That's great. So thank you to you both for coming in.
Welcome.
If our listeners out there are enjoying the podcasts, make sure you check out the magazine as well. It's koitalk.com.